Local programming on KRWG made possible in part by viewers like you. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to Fronteras, a Changing America. I'm Anthony Moreno. Today we learned about an organization that is working to create a healthy, more sustainable food system in the Paso del Norte region. To do that, the group educates area youth about food issues and the importance of having a self-reliant food system. Here is just a part of what the group is doing this summer to achieve its mission. La Semilla Food Center in Anthony, New Mexico is kicking off a couple of camps this month that are aimed at educating kids about food from different cultures. One camp, titled Food and Farms of the World, will give kids in grades K through 2nd an opportunity to explore farming practices from different cultures, according to Catherine Yanez, Outreach Coordinator with La Semilla Food Center.
And it's going to be a place where we can tie food to different regions of the world and still have fun cooking and also gardening.
According to Aaron Sharratt, Director of Development and Administration with La Semilla Food Center, the camps are a great opportunity to expand the organization's mission to the region's next generation.
The programs that we currently operate at the farm are really aimed at high school students and kind of young adults. And so we really want to begin making the connection also with younger children and their families at the farm.
La Semilla Food Center also is preparing to welcome 2 students to an apprenticeship program this summer that will offer more farm experience for local students who have already completed other programs the organization has offered. Farm Director Christina Dominguez-Eshelman explains.
They've been involved at the farm, but they've also been receiving lessons about food systems. Why does all this matter? What is food justice? How do we improve our food system? And so this is an opportunity to really hone in on the production and marketing aspects of that.
La Semilla maintains a community youth garden in Anthony and works to educate area youth and help plant school gardens across different districts in the region. Here to share more about La Semilla Food Center is Aaron Sharratt. Aaron is the Director of Development and Administration at La Semilla Food Center. Aaron, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Anthony.
Now, could you start off by telling us a little bit about the history of La Semilla Food Center and how it first came about?
Sure. So, as an organization, La Semilla started in 2010, really growing out of work myself and 2 friends at the time, Christina Dominguez and Rebecca Wiggins, were doing with community members in Anthony, Chaparral, and Vado, helping to establish community gardens and provide some youth programming that was really needed and really spawned kind of the idea and the foundation for La Semilla. And looking at what was possible around kind of growing a local food system and the desire that there was in the region and the need that there was for an organization solely devoted to doing that. And so, yeah, over the last 4 years, we've grown tremendously as an organization and really have our kind of foundation in that early work we did with the Colonias Development Council.
Now, prior to establishing the farm, you were working to educate area youth, and you still are doing that, of course. Could you tell us a little bit about what type of educational efforts you are doing to reach out to the next generation here?
Sure. So pretty central to our mission and to everything we do is really involving youth and families in kind of building a vibrant and healthy local food system. And so we do a couple different things currently to engage youth. We run school garden programs in the Gadsden and Las Cruces school districts. We run summer programming at our 14-acre education demonstration farm in Anthony. And it's a farm that's beginning to take shape, and we're involving youth in kind of every step of the way so that they can learn about the food system in general, how food is grown and produced, and reconnect to the environment, to plants, to each other, kind of in that way. And so we offer programs that are kind of intensive educational programs for youth in the spring and fall at the farm. And then this summer we're piloting some summer camps for younger youth at the farm, and quite excited to see how that goes.
Now, we just got a look at some of those summer camps. I was wondering, what are the goals of those camps, and how do you hope to further develop those missions?
Sure. So the summer camps are really aimed at elementary age youth, and engaging those children in kind of learning all about food. And this year we've oriented the camps as we trial them to kind of set one aside that's focused on food and farms around the world, and so and really educating and teaching kids about how food is produced, what that means to people in different parts of the world, and how they come together and kind of share experiences and traditions and knowledge about food, and getting to partake in kind of different dishes from those countries. And then our other summer camp is focused on kind of the intersection of food and art. And there, of course, is a lot of overlap when you think about art and food, and really all the cultural ties that kind of bind the two. And so bringing those together and making kind of that the focus of one of the weeks of summer camp really was spawned by kind of the ideas internally, and where we saw kind of an opportunity in the region to provide something to do in the summer for young children, get them outside, get them off the computer, off TV, and we know that it's, of course, intensely hot. It's perfect time to be talking about the heat given the weather we've had lately. And so the summer camps will provide kind of some space and time outdoors in the early morning, and then in our office in the classroom in the afternoon, kind of focused on more, classroom-oriented stuff. So.
And you mentioned the art, so it sounds like it's probably a fun experience too for the students, I'd imagine.
We're hoping so. We're hoping that piloting them this year, we can kind of only grow from here, and so we're excited to see how they turn out and what the kids and their parents think of them. And I think there's an opportunity to kind of grow this sort of programming really as something kids can do in the summer, and providing an opportunity, especially around Anthony, where there are so few things for kids to be involved in the summer. It's an incredible opportunity to get kids outside, but also to provide some sort of recreation in the summer and provide some fun.
What are some of the things you see, you notice, or the feedback you get from parents, teachers, principals on interacting with the students? I know you go and work with different school districts to create school gardens. You have food days. What are some of the things the feedback you're getting?
Sure. A lot of the feedback we're getting, I would say we get tremendous anecdotal feedback. And of course, we're working kind of with an evaluation team to really assess the impact over the long term of this sort of programming, and what it can do in terms of education, to really linking, kind of hands-on, really applied education with the skills and the knowledge that kids need to build in the classroom. We think that this is a tremendous way to do it, through school gardens, through cooking in the classroom, through really learning life skills in that way. And what we have started to see, and what we hear is this very thing, is that it is a wonderful way to connect the benchmarks and standards, everything that the kids are supposed to be learning in the classroom, to them actually learning it, to kind of being able to learn from themselves by doing experiments in the garden, by using math skills, applying them in the garden, by doing art projects outside in the garden space, by learning to cook foods, learning to measure, just kind of relearning skills that I would say my generation has kind of lost in a way, and for that reason, a lot of people my age don't necessarily cook at home, don't know how to cook, and so trying to teach those skills to not just children, but engaging families. One of the most impactful pieces of our programming through our edible education program in the schools, I would say, is our family cooking nights, where we invite families in to learn with their children, in a sense, to learn from their children, things that they're doing in school. And it's not only an opportunity for us to get the parents involved in the school garden program, but it's an opportunity for them to get involved in the school in general. And I mean, I've attended a couple of wonderful family cooking nights down at Gadsden Middle School, where we've had incredible support from the administration there, including the principal, Ms. Quinones, who will come and talk with parents. It's an incredible opportunity for her to hear from parents and for them to exchange ideas and really begin to build up and build out the school community. We know that that's really important and vital, really, to children's education, and it's hard to engage parents given how busy everybody is. And we feel that these family cooking nights are a tremendous way to do that and to get parents involved in their kids' education.
Seems like food can always bring people together.
It does, doesn't it?
One of the things that you also do is educate students about different food issues. According to your organization, what are some of the top food issues facing, not only this region, but the society in general?
Sure. I would say right at the top of the list, of course, is kind of the health-related issues. The obesity, diabetes, diet-related disease is, I would say, hands down, kind of the most pressing issue, especially as it relates to all of us, to everybody in this country and really in the world. We see that food, of course, is kind of the #1 factor when it comes to diet-related disease, and so we know that addressing it is also means looking at our food, how it's produced, what is produced, what's accessible in communities or in certain parts of communities, and who has or doesn't have access to that. And so from a policy perspective, those are pretty serious questions, especially when we think about our region, and it ties to kind of broader questions about use of resources, about poverty, because what we often see, and the USDA has termed this concept food desert, where healthy food outlets are not available kind of within those zones. I know Las Cruces has 2 areas specifically that are designated food deserts where there aren't healthy food outlets, and where poverty, kind of it's the intersection of poverty, a certain percentage of low-income people, and then the accessibility of healthy foods. And so we have 2 areas like that in Las Cruces. There are numerous areas in El Paso, and then in the county there are many additional areas. And for us as an organization, we see this kind of interesting phenomenon, and this has happened across the country too, especially in rural areas where you have agricultural lands. We have the Mesilla Valley here. We have incredible fertile agricultural zone, from the southern part of the county up through the northern part of the county, and yet many of those communities lying right in that agricultural valley are considered food deserts, communities that lack access to healthy foods. And it's a pretty interesting phenomenon where you can have agricultural lands in incredibly fertile areas and yet have food deserts, communities that lack access to food. And that to us gets at a question of resource use and how we're choosing to grow and who we're growing for, because we realize that in our region, in the whole Paso del Norte region, there's we have a pretty incredible population, and I mean, we are not feeding ourselves at all, and that's reflected in kind of the number of people that need to access emergency food programs, and the incredible number of people who need those programs that aren't able to access them. We have an incredible hunger issue in this region that's not being addressed, and those emergency food programs like Roadrunner, Casa de Peregrinos, food pantries do an incredible job, and yet they're there for a reason as an emergency support, and more they're looked to as kind of almost a long-term solution, and we know that we need to do a better job of producing food that feeds people in our region and across the country. Otherwise, we're going to continue to see the growth of the need for emergency food services if we aren't addressing kind of the issue at the root, and looking at how we're producing food, where that food ends up, and really connecting the dots. And I would just add that at a federal level, with the recent Farm Bill that was passed, it's beginning to provide an opportunity, and I think there's a realization at the federal level that things need to change fundamentally, and we're beginning to see that shift. And of course, it's going to take time. There's vested interests that have power and have a reason for wanting to maintain kind of the status quo when you look at distribution of federal resources for agriculture and for producing food. But even with that money and that power, we're beginning to see a shift, and I would attribute so much of that to the work of community organizations, municipalities, of really people demanding that sort of change, of realizing that we have this set of health problems. In the Southwest, we're facing this drought, we have serious water issues, and all of these things contribute to our food system. And at the same time, of course, we have rising fuel costs, which only make it more expensive to purchase food.
Now, you mentioned the drought. There are a number of different agricultural organizations, businesses that are growing certain types of agriculture here in the Mesilla Valley. Is that sustainable? The main crops that are being exported out of the Mesilla Valley throughout the rest of the world, are they being grown in a sustainable way? I mean, is there a future beyond that if the drought continues?
Sure. That's a good question. And it's a loaded question, too. I mean, that's fundamentally, it kind of gets at, I would say, the core of issues we're facing. And I don't know that there is a single solution. I think that what we're fortunate to have here in this valley is somewhat more diversified and smaller agriculture than you have, say, in the Midwest or in California. And for that reason, in some ways, there's opportunity to transform the system more so than I would say you see in those other areas. I think fundamentally, kind of the question we need to ask is how we are using the resources that we have. Our water is a collective resource, and yet, it's held individually. Individuals have rights to it. So how do we manage that sort of, kind of trade-off where everybody's pumping from the same aquifer? As that aquifer is depleted, that affects everybody. Everybody's drawing water from the same river and reservoirs, and as that water is depleted, it affects everybody. And so I think we need to really move from kind of these surface level discussions about everybody talking about this issue to really collectively, moving towards a solution that minimizes the water use, which then in a sense kind of maximizes it for everybody. One of the things we're doing on our farm is installing drip irrigation system. We know that a drip irrigation system in a sense is a more efficient use of water for us in the way we're producing, because the water goes to the plant's roots. We see that type of system adopted more and more throughout the country, especially for vegetable production, because it's a pretty highly efficient use of water. But I think that more than anything, we do have an opportunity to explore what sustainable agriculture means and looks like in this region. And it's going to take time, and I think ultimately it'll probably look somewhat different than the valley looks now, simply because we're going to be forced to with changes that we're beginning to have to deal with now. I know one of the things that we're interested in doing on the farm and really excited to kind of learn about as we do it is integrating native plants on the farm. We know that the desert is rich and abundant in life, especially edible plants. And mesquite being a great one, and mesquite's often viewed as a nuisance. You know, nopales are used pretty widely. But things like that, things that really don't use a lot of water that live here anyways, and can begin to kind of transform even what we eat. Right now, a lot of those things, especially mesquite flower is incredibly expensive, and yet just in the desert area here, mesquite's incredibly abundant and really not used very widely as a source of food.
Now you mentioned that. I mean, what about mesquite? I mean, what can it be used for?
So mesquite can be used in a number of different ways. I'd say the most common, of course, is milling it for flour. Mesquite flour is, I don't know if it's considered a superfood, and if it's not, it's probably just about as close to a superfood as you can get, because of nutritional makeup of the mesquite. It's an incredibly rich food source. It's been used for centuries. Of course, we've gotten away from that, but there's a reason for that. It's abundant, and nutritionally, it's an incredible food source. Amaranth is another, there's varieties of amaranth that, of course, even us on our farm, we consider kind of weeds. They grow like weeds. They'll come up quicker than just about anything. But amaranth is making a resurgence too as a food source.
Now these are food sources that people who are living in this region were surviving on. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Hundreds of years ago.
Yeah.
I should say. Yeah.
There's a long and tremendous history of the use of these foods, and they continue to be used. The Tucson area is a great example, another kind of border area where a lot of time and energy and resources have been poured into building a more localized food system. And the approach that they've taken and kind of the results have been wonderful in terms of combining kind of that sort of energy and wanting to create a local food system with recognition of these desert food sources. And you have incredible organizations like Native Seed Search that's saving, preserving seeds while also kind of spurring encouraging a lot of people to harvest and to process and use foods that are found in the desert.
And we only have just a little over 3 minutes left, but I was wondering if you could share with us, tell us a little bit more about the farm that you have owned and operate in. I believe there's volunteers that help out with that.
Sure. So the farm that we have is located about 2 miles north of Anthony. It's a 14-acre farm. The land was donated by Kent and Martha Halla, who own and operate Sierra Vista Growers, and are tremendous partners to La Semilla and a tremendous asset to this region in general. And so we've spent the last couple of years kind of working through the process of transitioning the land to La Semilla, drilling a new irrigation well on the land, putting in this drip irrigation system. And we did some limited production last year on the farm, some vegetables, some cut flowers. And this year we're continuing to expand the land. We, with the help of another partner organization, American Friends Services Committee, we built a hoop house on the land last fall. Have tomatoes and basil and some spinach growing in there now. And actually this morning I was out on the farm for a couple hours with our team doing some planting. So we're coming along on the farm, and really the purpose is to be an education site and to demonstrate, to try out, new practices. Some of the things that we've been talking about, kind of turning this idea of, the water issue, seeing how we can begin to address that, and really taking the time to assess if we are able to grow any more efficiently in terms of the use of water, and experimenting with different practices to see the results and different plant varieties. And of course, we have some great partners in faculty Paul Gutierrez and Mark Uchansky from New Mexico State University, have been a tremendous source of knowledge. And
are there certain days where people can volunteer at the farm?
Yeah, so if anyone is interested in volunteering at the farm, there are plenty of opportunities to get involved. It's a big project, and we need all kinds of expertise. And so there's Saturdays and Wednesdays are dedicated to volunteers. If you're interested, just shoot us an email, give us a call, or show up. But you're also welcome really anytime. If you want to come out and get your hands dirty and help on the farm, we're on board with it.
Could you share with us the website where people can get involved?
Sure, it's www.La Semilla Food Center, and that's LASEMILLA foodcenter.org.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing with us about your organization, and we'll look forward to hearing more about it in the future.
Wonderful. Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you. Our guest was Aaron Sharratt. Aaron is Director of Development and Administration at La Semilla Food Center in Anthony, New Mexico. I'm Anthony Moreno. Thank you so much for joining us for Fronteras, A Changing America.